Joining me on the line as he does every Friday on the show, we're diving in this almost completely blind because it's been a day, friends. It's Mike Reyes from Cinema.
Go!
Let's go, God! Mike Reyes from Cinemablend.com joining me on the line right now to talk about movies and S. What's going on, Mike? How you doing?
Oh, well, not much over here. Just ready to dive in. like 4 Patrick Warburton impressions.
Oh, that's funny. All right, so we got a couple big movies coming out this week. You've seen them both, the new Halloween and The Last Duel. Where do you want to start? Which one's better? I did it. I did it to you again. I asked where do you want to start? Which one's better? I put you in a conundrum.
It's okay. I was just going to do what I wanted anyway.
Perfect.
We're going to start with The Last Duel, which is a good movie. It's Ridley Scott's epic retelling of a true story where 2 knights in France, played by Matt Damon and Adam Driver, duel to the death because of an accusation where one knight has raped the other one's wife, played by Jodie Comer.
Oh.
Now, what's really interesting about this, before I even get into my opinion on it, what's really interesting about this movie is it is framed in a way that I did not expect. And what happens is there are 3 different chapters to this film, and it basically goes through a certain chain of events from Matt Damon's point of view, from Adam Driver's point of view, and then from Jodie Comer's point of view. And you're kind of you see the overlap between these stories around the same time frame. So it kind of retells the same story, but just with some different, not beat for beat the same, just with different points of view and details thrown in.
Okay.
And that's part of why go on.
No, I was just going to say, the last real, kind of knights in shining armor thing we got was, not to bring it up 2 weeks in a row, but the last thing we really got that people paid attention to like that was Game of Thrones, right?
Kind of, yeah, but this is based on a true story.
Okay.
And it's definitely not just knights in shining armor. Like, we see these 2 very complicated characters that are just bad dudes at times. Like, there is no perfect knight. And then we get to see Jodie Comer's point of view, sort of parsing through everything that it's sort of giving more context to these 2 people that we've seen the actions of. I would not be surprised if Ridley Scott has a longer cut of this sitting around, because one of the reasons that I'm okay with this movie, it's a solid, good movie, but the way that it's framed with the 3 different chains of events, I felt you really could have consolidated that into one just epic tale that plays with the question of which side is right and which side is fabricated.
Okay.
But I think I wouldn't be surprised if he has a longer cut of this sitting around, because he's done it before with other movies like Kingdom of Heaven, where he sends it to theaters with a 2.5-hour cut, and then you go to home video and there's a 4-hour cut that he had just waiting to be unfurled. And I think with a longer cut, this might hit better. But as it is, it's still solid. It's Ridley Scott not playing around, but trading in his fascination with medieval tales of, valor, kind of, again, Kingdom of Heaven, and even to a certain extent before the medieval times, Gladiator. There's some very familiar scenes of, battles in the snow and flaming arrows, but there's a very timely message at the center of this, and it's interesting to see Matt Damon and Ben Affleck teaming up again as writers, but also just seeing them in this movie. I mean, Ben Affleck gets some really humor-laden moments as a member of the King's Court. I want to see more of him in this sort of movie, because he just eats it up. And Matt Damon's awesome as well. Jodie Comer and Adam Driver are fantastic. You have a real solid 4 actors anchoring this film down. So it's good.
Mike Reyes from Cinemablend.com joining me on the line. Okay, so that's The Last Duel. Going over to the another Halloween movie. Tell me about it. Did you like it?
Yes.
You did?
Halloween. All right. I really liked Halloween 2018. And this is from someone who really needs to rewatch and reconsider the first Halloween, because I've seen the first Halloween. I wasn't a huge fan.
Okay.
I was, I know that this is I think it's another one of those things where when I finally sat down and watched Blade Runner for the first time, it's a movie that society has aped so many times and has paid tribute to and ripped off in so many different parodies and knockoffs that when you go back and watch the original, it's like, okay, I see why this was a landmark film.
Yeah.
But since I was sort of late to the party, it doesn't hit with me the way that it did with initial viewers.
Yeah.
Like, have you ever felt like that about a movie?
I have. I've felt it more about TV shows.
Well, that's definitely valid.
Like I won't. Like I don't always jump on a TV show immediately. It'll be, a little bit down the line, and I'll go back and I'll start watching. So you miss that. You miss that initial like water cooler talk with it.
Yeah, and plus just the sort of thing I'm describing here, which could apply to other shows like Sopranos or Mad Men.
Yeah,
these are shows that were so part of the pop culture that the imitators that came after it kind of may have ruined the original in a sense.
You beat it into the ground. You beat the dead horse.
Yeah.
Okay.
But going and watching Halloween 2018, which was like the direct sequel to the first film, I loved it. And Halloween Kills is a great continuation of what happened in that film. It's set the same night, like moments after Halloween 2018 ends.
Okay.
And Michael Myers, spoiler alert, I guess, is still alive. I mean, who would have expected that? Who would have expected Michael Myers, the killer of Haddonfield, Illinois, to survive and wreak havoc again? But this time, the town wants blood. Haddonfield wants to kill the boogeyman. And there is mob mentality. David Gordon Green and Danny McBride have brought a wonderful air to this, where it is still a deathly serious Halloween movie. But there are moments of humor that are peppered through this movie that are great, and they kind of endear you to some characters that you're like, I really don't want to see them die.
Yeah.
And there's a good chance they might because Halloween. But also there is a very interesting message about how the victims and how the town has sort of dealt with his legacy. And, part of it's in Jamie Lee Curtis's character, Laurie Strode, coming back again. But it just has a lot of interesting things to say about Halloween. And it's not just, I feel like what they're doing with this new trilogy, because we still got Halloween Ends coming out next October, because the whole plan was Halloween Kills was going to come out last year. Halloween Ends was going to come out this year. They were going to be separated by a year in between. But due to the pandemic, everything got pushed.
Yeah.
And so this one leaves it at an interesting point that I cannot wait to see resolved next year. And if fans want to watch this, Universal, after a year of saying they were going to keep this theatrically exclusive, did decide to put Halloween Kills on Peacock. And I think it's a good idea because it's a seasonal movie that they're going to want to get as many eyes on as possible. And No Time to Die is probably still going to be popular enough this weekend to maybe carry the weekend, but also you've got all these people that want to watch Halloween Kills, and you can probably make your own marathon of Halloween movies and throw this in there. It's on Peacock. You have to pay for the premium, one of the two premium plans, in order to get it. You can't just go free Peacock to watch this.
How many? You know what though? You know what I'd love to see the stat of, and I don't know how you would get it. But the whole idea of Netflix and chill.
Yeah.
Like how far are people making into Halloween before?
It is the season, my friend.
It
is the season. People do love to use scary movies as a way to romance their mates.
Yes.
Like, it's okay. I'll protect you.
Come here, baby. Let me put my arm around you.
Well, babe, I think it's time to go to bed after Halloween Kills. Oh, you're not tired? Oh, well, we got some records over here and a little bit of wine.
You want to play hide the pumpkin again, eh?
Whoa,
Mike
hide
Reyes.
the pumpkin.
I'm exaggerating. Kiff.
To answer your question, something like that.
There's only one surefire way into a woman's heart and parts beyond. I speak, of course, of karaoke. Mike Reyes from Cinemablend.com joining me to talk about movies. Okay, so Halloween Kills, good movie. You recommend it for the Halloween season. As we get into the news of the week, sticking kind of with scary movie type stuff, we got the first look at the new Scream movie. What is it, Scream 15?
It's the fifth Scream movie. They haven't gone that far.
Okay.
Yeah.
I watched a trailer. I didn't hate it, but I asked you off the air. I'm like, do we need another Scream movie?
I haven't seen all of them. I know the basic story of the movies because, people have talked about it, but I've obviously seen the first one.
Yeah.
And even just seeing the first one, I'm very curious as to how I'm going to take to the sequels because Scream, even watching it today and just knowing where it came in the timeline of horror movies, that movie is a trailblazer. It was something that, again, it's one of those movies where depending on your taste, if you come to it now,
yeah,
it's either going to be a fun throwback or it's going to be that movie that all these other horror movies like Halloween H2O wanted to copy because it became the new apex predator on the block. So the interesting thing about having Scream sequels, especially when you're going into territory like this where it's a legacy sequel, where it's like, hey, it's been X years since we've done this. Let's bring the original cast back and dig into this more. It keeps it fresh for another audience.
Okay.
So if you do a sequel like this right, especially with a series that's always been dissecting horror movies and horror tropes and just the horror of humanity, it works. But then again, to your point, there is a certain point where we're going to do this and people are just going to be like, okay, why are we doing it? But I think this new one looks good.
I will tell you this, because of Scream, I think of that movie every time I say the phrase, I'll be right back.
Yeah. Oh, yes. Oh, man.
I don't know why.
Matthew Lillard in that's some cast in that movie, but like Matthew Lillard and Steve Ulrich are like MVPs in there.
Matthew Lillard has had a better career than people think, right?
He has, because he's done some directing work, and also I think he's done indie film and TV appearances, and let's not forget the man was Shaggy.
Yeah.
In the Scooby-Doo movies. And I think next to Casey Kasem, he was the Shaggy. And I don't think he gets enough credit for that. And I don't think the Scooby-Doo movies get enough credit. Like, that's great gateway horror for your kids.
It is. So, all right. Mike Reyes from Cinemablend.com. We're talking about the new Scream trailer. What else kind of happened this week? Anything big?
I'm trying to think that myself.
That's what I was thinking. I'm like,
yes.
What?
There was, this is a very interesting situation. I don't know if you've ever heard of the comedian / impressionist, Jamie Costa. He went viral years ago for a spot-on Robin Williams impression.
Oh, yeah, I did read about this week.
And what happened this week was he and some friends got together and made what he called a reel of test footage for, they took a scene from Dave Itzkoff's biography on Robin Williams called Robin. It's the moment where Robin Williams learns that John Belushi died of a cocaine overdose on the set of on his trailer on the set of Mork and Mindy. And Jamie is an amazing mimic, especially with, he has a whole web series where I think he does Ewan McGregor's Obi-Wan Kenobi on YouTube. But he became well known for his Robin Williams impression, especially shortly after he passed, because he'd done several of them on Vine as like a tribute to him.
Yeah.
And it's still sitting on the internet if you want to see it. And it's a very complicated situation because fans want to see him say Robin Williams in, a biopic, because that Hollywood's going to want to do this.
Oh, at some point.
Especially if they use the Itzkoff book. They'll probably want to use that as like a basis, but for content alone, the scene is amazing. I think the scene is very moving. He portrays him. It's almost like watching Robin Williams again. The problem with that. Oh, go on.
Oh, I was just going to say, I'm actually sort of surprised that they haven't done a biopic on him yet.
I think it might be a combination of some think it's too soon and the family might think it's too soon. And that leads me to another interesting wrinkle in this scenario. Zelda Williams, Robin's daughter, has, like a lot of people, sent her the video because, some people are going to think she might want to see it. And she went on Twitter basically saying, stop sending me this. Jamie's amazing. And this is nothing against him, but I'm just paraphrasing here. She's like, there's nothing against him, but showing one of my father's saddest days in a video like this is kind of wild. Like people sending it to her. And I think it's probably a case of his family and his estate probably have certain guidelines and certain protections, because this is, when Robin passed, it was brought up again. I think people already knew this, but he had a clause in his estate that Disney cannot use any of his outtakes and any of the unused material for Aladdin in like any future project.
Huh. That's correct.
So
because they had a falling out with him and Disney, didn't they?
Yeah. After I forget what exactly happened, but after Aladdin, they had to buy him a Picasso to bring him back for Aladdin 3.
Yeah, there was some. Yeah, I can't remember what it was, but okay, interesting. Well,
like there was a.
I'll see if I can get that video and put it up at the bottom of the page. Good stuff this week, Mike. Good stuff.
Yeah, I mean, again, I enjoyed watching that myself, but at the same time, if the family isn't ready to make this sort of movie, I don't care what the fans say. You need to give it time.
Yeah, I was gonna say, you know what? I can't imagine I'd like to watch an impersonation of my dad on his worst day after he's passed.
Yeah.
Like if it was a funny moment, like him telling the clown joke, then yeah, maybe I'd like to see that, but not in this case. So Mike Reyes from Cinemablend.com joining me on the line to talk about movies. Mike, we'll talk to you next week.
All right, have a good one.